All right, let's jump right in. We are about to pull back the curtain on the fundamental story of our economy. It's really a tale of two incredibly powerful, almost invisible forces that are constantly at war, and they secretly decide the price of pretty much everything you buy.
Have you ever really stopped to think about it? Why is it that one day your morning coffee costs one thing, and a month later it's ticked up a little bit? Or why do flight prices seem to have a mind of their own? It's not random. There's actually a really powerful logic working behind the scenes.
And that logic comes down to the two main characters in our story today, supply and demand. You can think of them as being locked in this constant dance, a kind of push and pull that shapes the entire marketplace. And once you understand this dance, you'll start seeing the whole economy in a new light.
So first up, let's talk about our side of the story, the buyer side. This is where we all live. And in economics, this force is called demand. It's the collective power of every single one of us as consumers.
Now, the definition here is super important. Notice those key words, willing and able. See, demand isn't just about wanting something. It's about being both willing to buy it and, this is the kicker, being able to actually pay for it. You might want a private jet, right? But unless you have the millions to back that up, you're not actually part of the demand for one. It's desire plus purchasing power.
So what causes our collective urge to buy things to spike or crash? Well, it's a whole mix of things. Let's say you get a raise. That's your income going up. Suddenly, you might demand more expensive stuff. Or think about tastes and trends. A product goes viral on TikTok, and boom, demand just skyrockets out of nowhere. And future expectations are a huge one. If you hear a brand new phone is coming out next month, what happens to your demand for the current model? Yeah, it probably drops to zero, right? All these things are constantly pushing and pulling our behavior as buyers.
Okay, so every story needs two sides. So now let's flip the coin and meet the other major force in our economic drama. The makers, the creators, the sellers. This is the world of supply.
And look, it's those same magic words again, willing and able. A company might be physically able to produce 1 million cars, but they'll only be willing to actually do it if they can sell them for a price that makes sense. So supply is all about what businesses decide to create and put out there for us to buy.
And what influences their decisions? Well, a totally different set of factors. For instance, if the cost of their raw materials goes up, a company might supply less of their product. But on the other hand, if they invent some new game-changing technology, they can suddenly supply way more, way faster. And then you've got things like government policies. A tax might reduce supply, while a subsidy could encourage it. Or even just Mother Nature. A bad harvest can completely wipe out the supply of a crop for a whole season.
So, we've met our two main characters. We have the buyers, that's demand, and we have the sellers, that's supply. Now for the really cool part. What happens when these two forces finally meet and interact in the marketplace?
It really is like a giant tug of war. On one side, you have us, the consumers. We're pulling on the rope, trying to get the best stuff for the lowest possible price. And on the other side, you have the producers. They're pulling just as hard, trying to sell their goods for the highest possible price. That price you see on the tag, that's just the center of the rope, the point where these two opposing forces have found a temporary balance.
And this right here is the golden rule of the entire market. It's so simple, but it explains almost everything. When way more people want something than there is to go around, the price just has to go up. And when there's a ton of something sitting on shelves that nobody really wants, what happens? The price drops. It's the market's way of sending signals to both buyers and sellers.
Let's walk through a real-world example. So, a new must-have gadget drops. The hype is off the charts. Demand just explodes, right? Way more than the company actually made. The shelves are empty almost instantly. That's a shortage. And you know what happens next? You see it online for double, even triple the price. The price is being forced up to try and meet that insane level of demand.
So, okay, we've got buyers, we've got sellers, and this endless tug of war. But why should you care? What's the takeaway for your actual life? Well, it matters because this isn't just some abstract theory. It directly impacts your wallet every single day.
This invisible dance is the reason you couldn't get tickets to that sold-out concert. It's why gas prices seem to creep up during summer vacation season. And it's also why that shirt you were looking at a month ago is suddenly on the clearance rack. That clearance rack is a surplus. It's what happens when supply was way bigger than demand. It is literally happening all around you all the time.
So think of this as your quick cheat sheet. It's a great summary of the main triggers. On the left side, you've got the things that make us, the consumers, want to buy more of something. On the right, you've got the things that enable producers to make and sell more. Understanding these basic shifters gives you a whole new lens to see the economic world.
And that brings us to a final big question to think about.
In our modern world, where a TikTok trend can create massive demand literally overnight, and where new technology is constantly redefining what's even possible to create, which of these two forces do you think will ultimately shape our future more? Will it be what we want, our ever-changing desires, or will it be what we can make, our incredible and accelerating ability to innovate? It's a pretty fascinating question about where this whole thing is headed.